Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today with all of you, facilitating this exchange of experiences from Somalia, Somaliland, Syria, and Yemen on the protection of cultural heritage in conflict. With recent armed conflicts, we have seen the widespread destruction of cultural heritage objects, museums, and sites, as well as the disruption of cultural practices and ways of life. In addition to the threats from direct targeting to the deliberate use in conflicts, and the ever-present risk of collateral damage, cultural heritage destruction is now a part of modern extremist identity wars, where it is targeted for no reason other than its links to a given community. Although there are legal methods and standards set out to encourage the protection of humanity's most important cultural heritage, few actors have actually taken up responsibility and put measures in place, and even fewer are actually operating around such conflict areas. Our invited guest brings us the experiences from the field. They will reflect upon the progress achieved so far and remaining challenges in operationalizing the protection and promotion of cultural heritage in their territories. Our speakers today are Amer Ahmad, archaeologist and co-director of the Directorate of the Asira region, the Self-Administration of Northeast Syria, and senior consultant of Orient Association. Ahmed, Amer, sorry.
Amir, do you want to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Amir Ahmad, as Annabella said, the co-director of the Antiquities in Jazeera territory, safe management administration northeast of Syria, and also I am happy to be a consultant with Orient Association. A brief shortly about myself. I graduated from the University of Damascus Department of Archaeology. I've been working in safeguarding and protecting the archaeological site, cultural heritage since 2015 with the local community, with the self-management administration, and now with our partners, we are doing what we can do to protect our heritage.
Thank you, Amer. We also have here Dr. Sada Mire, archaeologist, executive director of Horn Heritage Organization in Somalia and Somaliland. Sada?
Thank you so much to Fight for Humanity and Anki and everyone for the invitation. I am an archaeologist working with Horn Heritage Foundation, which we set up back in 2011, working in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Somaliland, Djibouti, and working on cultural heritage protection, and also archaeological research and community engagement. And yeah, looking forward to interacting with you all.
Thank you, Sada. We will have joining us Jaklin Mansoor Mohammed Ahmad, Associate Professor in Linguistics and Phonetics in Aden University and Project Leader of Ruaa Center for Strategic Studies, Consultancy and Training in South Yemen. She will be joining us soon. And we're going to talk now about the current situation of cultural heritage in Somalia, Somaliland, Northeast Syria, and shortly, hopefully, about the south of Yemen as well. Even though we will discuss the problems and challenges in these different contexts, the idea is to be proactive, to remain positive, and to look ahead at what can be done to make things better. So let's try not to get caught on what has gone wrong. Let's try to think what we can do moving forward. And I'm gonna go right ahead and start with Syria. Amer, ongoing for more than 10 years, the Syrian armed conflict has had a devastating impact on cultural heritage across the country, from deterioration, destruction, and neglect of sites to illegal excavations, looting, and smuggling of artifacts. How is cultural heritage promotion and protection being operationalized in the northeast of Syria? And what is the role of Orient Association in this context? What types of actions is your organization taking? Over to you, Amer.
Yes. Actually, after the liberation of the area from the ISIS and the other extremist groups, de facto administration, safe management administration has been formed. This administration put law rules to protect the cultural heritage in all over of the northeast of Syria. We are as archaeologists, as we are working depending on the rules, the laws to protect our heritage in our area. So we also have roving guards. They roam from site to site, everyone from his area, just to prevent any abuse, any violation may happen to the archaeological site. So I think the situation of the archaeological site in our region is more better than the other regions, and at least the regions are not under the government control. We are reinforcing the idea of protecting the cultural heritage through, of course, through the rule we have made, and also through several activities such as seminars, workshops, maintenance in some sites, awareness in the military and academies, just to encouraging people to be responsible, exactly like us as archaeologists, to protect their heritage. As Orient Association, we did several activities. As I said, seminars, workshops, and awareness campaigns. And also last year we did the restoration in Tel Beider site. Tel Beider site is one of the most important sites, dates back to the 3rd millennium before Christ, and in northeast of Syria. Several, all the components in the area, I mean, Kurds, Arab, Assyrian, have been involved in this project as a model of gathering all the ethnics in the area to protect their heritage in very critical time of their country. And what we are now doing, and as a Orient Association, and coordinating with the director of Antiquities, which I'm the co-director of it, we are now working in separating and sorting and documenting the archaeological materials which belong to the expedition who worked before in northeast of Syria before 2011. This project is, I think, is good just to make to know what we have of the archaeological materials, and in comparison with the database of the expedition, we will know what kind of materials have been looted during the conflict and before we transport it. And the most important thing in this project, in my opinion, is documenting the confiscated materials by the local security forces. It is our project in the next months, and also we have a plan to do some awareness campaigns in schools, in the military academies, and the centers of the security forces. I think it's a very good idea to raise the level of cultural awareness. And I will not forget, of course, the mosaic, Roman mosaic, which it was removed from the site of Tel Shuk Tahtani. And I am very happy that to be in person, in touch with Professor Roberto Nardi we are very interested in making it protected. So I am very happy to be with him for this project.
Thank you very much, Amer. We will have time as the conversation goes on to go in further detail about specific parts of the project, but I mean, all the aspects with the community, with the security, and with the preservation itself of the sites and objects, it's super interesting. Let's move on now to Somalia. Since 1991, Somalia has been battered by violent armed conflicts, and Somaliland, a relatively stable, self-declared state, has not been internationally recognized yet. Sada, as the only active Somali archaeologist working in Somalia and Somaliland, among other places, how will you describe the cultural heritage context and the differences when operationalizing the protection and promotion of cultural heritage in these territories? And who is Horn Heritage? What is your organization doing? You are on muted, Sada. If you can unmute yourself, we'll hear you.
So Horn Heritage, thank you so much, Annabelle. So the two countries, Somalia and Somaliland, are in many ways in different contexts when it comes to cultural heritage. You have Somaliland, which has in the past 30 years had a peaceful country, peaceful transfer of power, and had a lot of development from within in terms of economic development, institution building. And my work as an archaeologist came in back in 2007 to build archaeology and cultural heritage there. So Horn Heritage came into that background where I helped set up the Department of Archaeology, and then moved on to also incorporate tourism, and then back in 2011 set up a civil society organization, because often Somaliland normally doesn't get much funding, bilateral funding, because of the status of the country. So civil societies then even more in need, in the sense to act and attract not only funding, but also build capacity within the country. So Horn Heritage was a way to help the government institutions, including the Department of Archaeology, to consolidate the protection of cultural heritage in a country where you have very little infrastructure, very little economic resource for heritage, as well as lacking laws to protect and capacity. But it's also similar to Somalia in the sense that Somalia, during the war, a lot of the museums were looted. Any infrastructure that existed within the Somali Republic was completely destroyed. And now, in the past 30 years, there's been certain development, which is promising in terms of the protection of cultural heritage, but still the country is under still very much war with extremists, and very difficult to work physically. However, there's been development in the sense that there is recognition or ratification of the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, and the rebuilding of the National Museum. So there is a great inspiring work done there. And Horn Heritage has been supporting many processes in Somalia as well as in Somaliland. And we are also working with Kenya and Ethiopia and Djibouti too. And our mission is to protect cultural heritage, particularly the Somali cultural heritage across the borders, but also particularly where we can contribute mostly, especially in Somaliland, where we have been active for the past decade. And at the moment running a project that is a holistic, if you like, project working on multi-religious heritage at a site near the capital Hargeisa. The site is called Oberhadle, and I recently published a book inspired by this site, but it's given us an opportunity to really understand heritage and peace and the process of peace from an indigenous point of view. Not only does the site have a lot of archaeology that is from different religions, but it's a living heritage where there's a lot of rituals taking place, especially related to peace and fertility. And a lot of contestations in various communities who all live around and in the site and claim. So itself, it's not an easy place to work, but it's also a critical place to work, especially if we want to invest in peace building and cultural heritage. So this project is funded by ALIPH, and the parts of the project include developing heritage law, which we have now launched in August, the first draft. We are very happy that we have the support of the, well, we've been working with the of tourism and the Department of Archaeology. And we also had the members of the parliament and the House of Elders to participate in our law workshops. And it includes the digital museum we have launched. It includes potential excavation at Ober Khadle in the future and various other elements. And that is actually one of the projects we've been doing, as it's quite holistic in looking at policy, protection, community engagement, exhibition. So everybody is involved, all the stakeholders.
Thank you, Sada. I've seen you've incorporated a lot of digital technology. You mentioned the digital museum, and to make that happen, there is a lot of background digital technologies coming into place. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how the community responds and in terms of trainings and so on?
So far, as I said, Somalia and Somaliland, all the museums were looted. So the idea started with first making sure that we do an inventory of things that we have, as well as what is missing, working with international museums that have collections abroad. So the digital museum we have trained back in 2013 together with an American NGO called SciArc. We trained locals in digitization, so 3D scanning of archaeological sites. And this was a way of digitally recording and preserving the images. We have extraordinary rock art sites in Somaliland. So that is one part, but also we have been training the locals in taking part through about 300 students who have taken part in the Heritage Under Threat Coursera MOOC, which I run with Leiden University. We sourced students from there who have been working with us as well on the ground with digital material. So it's been a process that's been going on for a long time, involving communities. We've just recorded iron production, traditional iron production, as well as pottery making. So all of this is not just about bricks and mortar, but also protecting and recording indigenous knowledge, indigenous technologies, which are actually present at the site we are working with at Ober Khadle, because it was a capital city of the early medieval kingdom called Audo. So we are talking about a whole capital city, and it's all industries and spaces, architecture, and it's a massive site. So to work with local custodians of indigenous knowledge and include them in spaces where they are not normally included is proving to be very helpful to us, because they then can exchange their knowledge with us and also be present in this site, for example, which they also claim they used to live there, for example. So the digital technology makes us makes it possible for us to engage everybody. So as a place of repository where we can put the laws, we can put the Heritage Under Threat course there, and we can have the displays and the documentaries posted with the interviews and testimonies of the communities representing their own heritage.
Thank you very much for giving that input. We are gonna move on now to Yemen. Jaklin has just joined us. Jaklin, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Welcome, welcome. You are coming right into debate. So we welcome you and bombing questions to you right away.
Okay.
So Jaklin is in South Yemen, and with years of conflict exacerbating the existing socioeconomic issues faced by the population in Yemen, the protection of cultural heritage falls far from the priorities of authorities and local communities alike. What is the situation, Jaklin, of cultural heritage in Aden and other areas in southern Yemen? And how will you describe the cultural heritage ecosystem in your region? And what is Ruaa Center doing so far? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for having me. First of all, I'm sorry for being late. Actually, the cultural heritage has been affected badly in South Yemen. And in our work, we experienced that there are a lot of damages that happened to cultural heritage, and we could classify them into direct damage and indirect damage. So direct damage is caused by airstrikes and military weapons. I mean, shots by heavy and light weapons. So what we had is that first of all, to classify those damages, and then we found also that there is a kind of negligence by the local authorities, and most of them are not doing their duties. And also there is a lack of restoration, and there is a spread of disorderly buildings inside the cultural site, and there is also a kind of destruction which is caused by extremists after the war to some religious monuments like church and temples. And also there are effects caused by natural disasters like floods and rains and so on. On the other side, also in other areas like Shabwa, Hadramaut, we found out that there is a kind of digging by citizens of the antiquities. So antiquities are digged illegally and smuggled. So this is the situation of cultural heritage in brief. The other part of the question is that whether there is a cultural heritage ecosystem. Actually, when we started working in this field, we started alone and individually. At the beginning, we tried to call some local organizations to come and work together with us, but the response was so weak. So we tried to contact the local authorities also, and also the response was so weak. And we also tried to contact the security forces, officers, and all the people who are concerned in the protection and promotion of cultural heritage, but also there was no big response regarding this field. So we can say that there is no organized work. I mean, that group of people or collective work, that group of people are working together in order to save cultural heritage in the South. It's either working individually by civil society organizations or by some activists who are active in this field.
Thank you, Jaklin. And Ruaa Center, what kind of projects have you been doing so far?
Actually, we started an initiative. It's called My Identity Initiative. And this initiative is concerned with saving what has remained of the cultural heritage in Aden and the other areas which are in the South. So we started visiting those cultural monuments in Aden. and recording the damages and photographing, spreading the news about them, trying to raise awareness. And after that, we contacted the authorities. We started to ask to find solutions for this kind of negligence and damage and carelessness, which we found when we started working in this field. And after that, we shifted to another level, which is raising awareness in schools. Like from our experience, we found out that there is a low level of awareness of the importance of cultural heritage. So we targeted the schools and targeted 4 schools in Old Aden and Crater. And we targeted around more than 3,000 students and teachers with a program of 2 months. And we worked in that program in order to raise awareness and to relate cultural heritage with identity, and it's important to people and important to history, to the future of any city and so on. Actually, we made a success in that program, and we got a lot of responses, positive responses from the community, from the people in the schools, people who are working in the education field and so on. And after that, we adopted some cases. Actually, people started handing us some cases of assaulting cultural heritage in Aden, and we started adopting some cases and following up with the authorities, trying to find solutions and so on. And we are working in those limits actually. And even we moved to another city, which is Lahej, which is near Aden, and we try to do the same, the same work that we are doing in Aden. And we are still working. There are a lot of things to be done. There are a lot of things to be accomplished, and there are a lot of things which are waiting for a response actually from us and from the other actors.
Thank you, Jaklin. We will discuss further as we go on with the conversation. For now, and to take it back to you sitting there behind your computer, we're going to have a poll. Let's see how we link this with peace building, and we want to hear your opinion. I'll pass it over to Nicholas. The poll is showing in your screen.
Hello, everyone. So we just wanted to make you participate a little bit into the conversation. So please, can you answer the question that is on your screen? So following what we have heard so far and from your experience, how could heritage become an instrument for peace and reconciliation? So we have 4 possible answers: participating in cultural life, foster social cohesion, heritage initiatives help with income generation, an inclusive heritage narrative brings together different communities, and heritage sites and practices heal trauma. So please vote. I give you 10 more seconds, and then we can see the results. Okay, so let's see the results. So we have almost half of the participants who already voted. Okay, so I will share the results now with you. Okay, so we can see that the best answer, the answers that you voted for is an inclusive heritage narrative brings together different communities as first answer. And then we have also a lot of people who voted for participating in cultural life, foster social cohesion. So yeah, I think it supports all the conversation of what we're saying today. So Annabelle, I don't know if you want to comment on that, and then we can move to question and answers.
We just wanted to set the mood for the question and answers, and there is no real wrong answer here. There are many ways, and as you heard from our speakers, their projects are coming from the community and are taking the community into consideration, because heritage at the end of the day is of the community. We are going to now start our first question and answer session. Let's try to keep the answers short as possible and to the point so that we can hear from everyone as much as possible. Nicolas,
So,
do you have anything from the chat?
Yes. So don't hesitate to send your question through the question and answer box at the bottom of the screen. So I will start with the first question from Amal in Yemen. So she's asking what, so she said like in Yemen, many archaeological sites were bombed in northern Yemen, either directly or were damaged as a result of air raids. So she wants to know what possible role for organizations like yours to protect these monuments and archaeological sites. So I don't know, maybe who'd like to answer these questions? Maybe Jaklin, no? Because she's talking about Yemen. Jaklin, you're muted. Huh?
Okay, can you repeat the question?
So Amal is asking whether organizations like yours can play a role in protecting cultural sites in conflict settings. The role of local organizations to protect from attacks or destructions, and what this
we are working in the south of Yemen. Actually, we are working. We are trying now here in the area that we are working. There is no military conflict actually in Aden and the other areas which are near Aden. If that's the question. But we cannot.
Yeah, I think what she would like to know is, you know, when there is a conflict and where there are attacks in a specific areas, whether it is in different parts of Yemen or in other countries, what local organization can do to protect the cultural sites. I don't know.
Yes, we are establishing a network actually, and between the north and the south, and we can make an association with the different organizations. Then we can unite our efforts and organize something together. So, but for us, we cannot work alone actually in those areas. But we are extending our hands to anyone who is, you know, who is willing to work in order to stop the war and stop the conflict, whether in the north or in the south. But our work is based in the south, actually.
We have another question from Valentina for Sada. So she's asking about, you know, the link between local organizations as yours, or as the one you are supporting in Somalia and Somaliland, and the links between those organizations and international organizations such as UNESCO. So do you have any kind of support or collaboration with that kind of international organizations?
Sada, will you unmute yourself, please?
Horn Heritage has been working with international organizations for the Somaliland matters, and that has been fine. We have worked with many organizations. As I mentioned earlier, I talked about SIARC. We've worked with also government organizations, government agencies, universities that we've been involved with here in the Netherlands, in the UK. So there's a lot of collaborations. The problem is more security, and for Somalia's case, it's been security has been always an issue. And of course, Somalia has relations with UNESCO directly, and they work with them, especially with the ratification of the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, and for other matters, including, I think, the museum. The National Museum. And so I know there is a lot of collaborations there, but it's the issue of security. Horn Heritage, we are able to work regionally across the Horn of Africa because we are embedded into different communities in the region. And it's easier for us to get involved. Both Horn Heritage is both an international organization legally based in the Netherlands, but also a local organization based in Somaliland, Hargeisa. So, so that collaboration does exist on both countries with direct connections with UNESCO and other international organizations.
Okay, so do we have time to take one more question before moving on to the second part, maybe for Amir, or are we late, Annabelle?
Go ahead with the question, but
Okay.
let's try to make it brief.
Okay, so Amir addressed another question from Jonathan. So he's asking about how we can integrate heritage conservation activities within wider development programs such as education or healthcare, you know, to just mix existing programs on education or introduce into existing program on education and healthcare some cultural heritage protection elements. Do you?
Sorry?
No, so Jonathan is asking if it's possible, if and you think you have ideas on integrating cultural heritage activities into some more broader programs to support communities, such as healthcare programs or education programs. Like maybe if we can integrate when we do a program to support schools, you know, if we can integrate some cultural heritage element in it or not. I mean, do you have any examples or ideas?
No, it's good. I think it's good idea when you make some or to join between the schools and all the centers belong to military or security forces or even the civilian academies to do awareness campaigns, do the some activities belong to the cultural heritage. So I think it's a good idea to for the future.
Okay, thank you. So let's
Thank
move on
you.
probably to the second part of our
Yes.
webinar.
Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you, Amer, and you all that are asking fabulous questions that we are not gonna be able to get to at once. For the second part of the discussion, we are going to focus on which challenges have been faced by these organizations and what are they doing to overcome these challenges. A big part of these sessions was also progress, but we have touched upon the progress as we have spoke already. So let's hear from them about challenges. And I will go back to Amer. What kind of concrete challenges have you faced working in Northeast Syria, and what steps have been taken by local authorities to overcome some of these challenges, Amer?
Yes, Ala. Of course, except of the coronavirus, because we have to stop, we have to continue sometimes because of embargo, and I think the challenge is a big the challenge is the danger. What the region is in war. We don't know the time. Maybe the region will be invaded by the other by the extremist groups, for example, or even by another neighboring countries. And also I can say that the lack of the qualified staff, because many of the specialists have migrated. So we have to depend on a small team. And I think the most challenge, in my opinion, that the big challenge we have been facing is how to convince the people that to be morally responsible for protecting their heritage. And for example, it's so difficult to convince people to attend one lecture about protection the heritage in their country, because everyone knows the very difficult living condition in our country. So how we can and how we overcome this challenge. I think I can say that the determination and instance, instance insistence um, of to protect our heritage, our cultural heritage, made us overcome all the obstacles. And also recently, um, we are, let me say that we are working on the land, and we are who have to protect our heritage. But believe me, without the without partners, it will be difficult little. And I think because we are in very economic, a very difficult economic condition. And what what I can say that we also, as a team, what makes me proud is the eagerness of our team. You can see them working with one heart. You can see them working like bees. They are all working without tiredness. Uh, no matter the difficult living condition, and no matter and even no matter no matter the danger. As I said, the area is siege, and maybe in we don't know when you walk in some site in the northeast of Syria, you don't know when the bomb may explode and you lose your life. So it's very dangerous too. Um, that was briefly I wanted to say. And I finally I want to say that um, as I said, we are who have to protect and preserve our heritage. But recently, with our partners Fight for Humanity and supporting from the ALIPH organization, it is very they are very appreciated for this support, and we we are very happy for this this work with, or joint work with each other. And we hope to continue, because the cultural heritage is not only, in my opinion, is not only mine, not only ours, but the cultural heritage is all is belong to all over the world.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank
We'll go to Yemen for a second. Jaklin, what are the main hinders for cultural heritage initiatives to succeed in Yemen, and especially in the south? And thank you.
Okay. Actually, we have many hinders actually, and you mean that you start alone while the others are not interested. When we started, at that time, people were not so excited about cultural heritage and were not interested. And when we started visiting, recording, spreading the news, then we got some reaction, and that was a positive reaction actually. And people, I think we succeeded to raise a level of awareness with regard to cultural heritage. So the hinders that we have, it's from the local authorities actually, because they are not giving this matter what it needs actually. And when we visited them, they always complain, and they give complaints about the problems that they are facing, and they didn't give any solutions. And we also faced difficulties from with regard to funding. So our work is volunteer work, and all the team is working voluntarily. And so that was also a problem, that we couldn't get the funds sufficient to progress more, to do more activities, to do something which is more effective and that can be measured on a level, on a scale, that we could say that, okay, we made a progress. But the thing that we felt that we raised the level of awareness of the community, and even of some people who, I mean, maybe the authorities after some time they will be pressurized by our work, and they will respond positively, and that is also that's mostly what we are facing now. We don't know, maybe in the future we face more in the
Thank you, Jaklin. Back to Somaliland, Sada, what challenges have you faced in your work in Somalia and Somaliland, and how have you overcome these challenges? And maybe one short success story that you can share with us as well.
There's always been challenges in both countries, because they both have different experiences since the past 30 years. So in Somaliland, as I said, it's been a lot to do with capacity building, infrastructure. The country was heavily destroyed, landmines everywhere. So even doing the archaeological surveys, we were sometimes at risk of landmines. And this has been cleared thanks to various international organizations working with the government. So now infrastructure can be built. So the post-conflict situation of Somaliland, when I was there in 2007, was very much still everything being rebuilt and landmines being cleared. There's a lot of poverty as a result of the war. That was a huge challenge as well, because archaeology is not an instant in that sense to provide livelihoods, but through by engaging tourism, we were able to actually create livelihoods for various communities. So we ran a huge international campaign with to get people to understand that Somaliland is a separate country. It's peaceful here. You can come, you can visit, you can contribute, you can invest. So Somaliland's experience is very different in that sense. And that is the success. The success I can report is not a success separate for archaeology or heritage as such, but it is the success of Somaliland as a country in developing, in maintaining peace, and through that actually giving an environment for people like me to work and become successful in protecting heritage, and developing infrastructure, Department of Archaeology, training people. For example, the MOOC, Heritage Under Threat, a lot of people took part of that. So that is really very much goes along with the situation in Somaliland. The challenges are of course still there, because we still lacking capacity. There's still heritage to be negotiated as something important. Not everybody thinks it's important. There are a lot of challenges, but it's, if you compare, you know, the situation in Somalia, it's completely different. And you have a situation where, at the moment, at least, with Somalia, you have new generation who have been following also the progress in Somaliland and are trying to rebuild something there as well. And we are helping those. I've been directly supporting the individuals working on, for example, initiatives in culture and development in Somalia. And also now we're working with colleagues there to develop a program to protect heritage of Mogadishu, for example. So, but we are enlisting different skills, different approaches to function in that situation, because it's very different to our work in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somaliland, and Djibouti.
Thank you, Sada. we want to hear from you now. We heard from the panelists from situation in Northeast Syria, from situation in Yemen and in Somalia and Somaliland. But to Nicolas, for another poll, what, from what you have heard so far, what do you think is the most difficult challenge to overcome in the efforts to promote and protect cultural heritage in conflict settings? You all come from different places and different backgrounds, so you might have different answers.
So we give you a few more seconds to answer. And then we will share the results of the first one. Okay. I think we have almost half of the participants. So now we'll close the quiz and share the results. Okay, so I think we have two answers that have actually been highlighted by the participants. So we have lack of support from the international community and the lack of access to long-term funding. Okay, I think that's interesting points that we need to take into consideration. Probably expected also.
Yeah. We are going to now go back to our second session of Q&As. Try to give as much time. We are almost there with time, but let's try to take as many questions as possible and take advantage of these fabulous speakers we have today. Nicolas, do you have anything from the chat?
Yes, we have actually many questions, so thank you for sending them, and sorry if we don't answer all of them. So there's a question from Heidi. So she's, I think, human rights officer at Mad for Peace. She's working on cultural heritage in Northeast Syria, Yemen, and Somalia. So how can local organizations work closely with governments to emphasize the importance of protecting cultural heritage and broaden the understanding of its relation with the country's identity? That's a pretty complex question, but let's see if we can find a shortened answer for today. Who would like to answer this one? Maybe Sada, if you have any. We can start with you again, and then.
Sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Sure. Yeah. So she's asking, how can local organizations work closely with governments to emphasize the importance of protecting cultural heritage and also, you know, broaden the understanding of its relation with the country's identity?
Yes, for us, our experience working with Somaliland has been interesting because archaeology and heritage was not something that, in fact, the government was looking at to begin with. So it's more created through the process, or let's say our traditional view of heritage and archaeology is not reflected in traditional societies and in Somaliland. And it was through protecting the archaeology and the heritage of technologies and indigenous knowledge that we also linked with the government's efforts and civilian efforts to create peace and to create development. So we managed to actually frame heritage as part of that process. Often heritage is seen as something of a privilege. You have to save lives first. You have to put food and shelter. And so it's not, and even after conflict, even in post-conflict situation as Somaliland, where I worked for the past 2 decades, it's been a process where you have to negotiate that. And I think NGOs can do a lot with governments if they manage to frame in a way that is mutually interesting and still true to the missions they have, because I think it's very heritage can also be something that's used for all sorts of things. So you have to be careful also what heritage you're talking about, who you're engaging. And it's a conflict region, the Horn of Africa as a whole. Unfortunately, in the past 4 decades, we've had lots of wars. So heritage is always going to be political and politicized. And it's really important to understand what are the common goals between the NGOs, what they are doing, and what the governments are doing, and find a common ground and work towards that. It's also very important to not function as only an NGO as such, because it's really important to understand that at the end of the day, I'd like to think what we want is strong government institutions. So NGOs, for me, often should be more or less temporary, depending on what they do, temporary things that come, support, help, build infrastructure capacity, and in an ideal situation, things should be run efficiently by governments. So it's really important to show that we have that belief in government, even if they can't do it now, that that's where we want them to end up, and that we are not doing this because we are doing their work and we're going to be doing that forever, but that they know that we are doing this to support them. At least that's my take on it.
Okay, well, excellent. Maybe a last question, and then we move ahead to the last part. So there is a question from Mansoor, and so he is asking about what can the international organizations, also local organizations like yours, do to protect cultural sites during hostilities? Because it says, like, in many conflicts, these sites are in control of armed forces and are used as military camps or posts, and they can get attacked from the other conflicting parties. So do you have any example, or what is your take on that? Can really international organizations or even local organizations influence these armed forces to protect these sites? Maybe Amir or Jaklin, one of you would like to answer that? Yeah, go ahead, Jaklin. Oh, Amir, yeah, go ahead, Amir. Yeah.
Okay, no. So, yeah. And let me say that nobody can stop the war. Nobody can stop any invasion to the to any area. So I think it's so difficult for the local organization and the international organization to protect the archaeological site during the conflict, during the constant, let me say, constant conflict. But I think what we can do normally, that it is as a local organization and also as an international organization to we want to ask for the international organization to be support for us to as a funding, as to give us a chance to continue our noble work. Let me say noble work in on the land. Let me say that we have to focus on the training the staff. As I said, we have a small staff, but we can do training for them. For myself, I graduated from the University of Damascus, and I didn't work in maintenance, restorations, and the other things. But through the Syrian crisis after 2011, I became everything. I became I worked as in the restoration, then the maintenance, even maintenance of the mosaic, and also awareness campaigns, and in the workshops. And also, I think we have to make the people aware by their heritage, because I think nobody also can we cannot, as organization, as archaeologists, on the do anything without the helpness of the people, because they will be a very assistance for us to protect their heritage.
Okay. Yeah. No. This is great. I think in addition, I can add also that with Orient Association Fight for Humanity, we are also doing some trainings to the security forces and armed forces in Northeast Syria, just to raise awareness on the different laws that are protecting cultural heritage during conflict. So this is one example of what we can do also to protect the heritage during hostilities. So I think let's move on because we're already a bit late.
Yes.
To the last part.
Thank you very much. And I would like to do this part very quickly. We're going to do a quick exercise, and I will ask Maya to join in this exercise. Very easy. We are going to look ahead for a moment, and from your experience and in your opinion, what could be further done and by whom to improve the implementation and impact of your work and similar work in other contexts. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to tell me one thing or two things that you think could be done better and by whom, that will make your work more efficient, more productive, more better in general, right? Like, so can be capacity building, expertise, funding, addressing logistical or political bottlenecks in your context. I'm going to start with Jaklin. Tell me one or two things that you think could improve and who should do them.
Okay, actually, there are many things to be done, especially in the south. Oh, two things. Okay, so we need first the political and the economic settlement. That's the main thing. Without this, we cannot do anything, and we cannot move the interest of the people from the basic services, from providing the basic services to the people to cultural heritage, because the cultural heritage is considered up to now by the government, by the local authorities as a luxury, and it's not a priority. So this is the first thing. The second thing, or second important thing, is that international organizations should also pressurize on the governments on putting cultural heritage as a priority. So instead of, or as well as supporting countries with food and basic services, they should also fund the organizations which are, or fund the government or the governmental sections which are specialized in this field, with the funding them, so they can put more interest on cultural heritage, restoration, capacity building, providing what is needed to museums and other cadres and so on. And there are also other things, but two are enough.
Sorry, thank you, Jaklin. Amer, what will improve your work in Northeast Syria and who should do it? Two things.
As I said, for first training for the staff, and also the constant the continuance of the funding, and I think because of we are in Syria, the general situation in Syria is in sanction with they are very there are there is a very difficult living conditions. So I think who can do that, I think the international organization who concerned by protecting the heritage, cultural heritage, may help us in this issue. I think that's what.
Thank you, Ahmed. Sada? Unmute yourself.
I think Jaklin and Amer made great points, so I don't really have much to add on that. I could just add a point inspired by one of the questions I got, which is the role of the diaspora. So I imagine there's a lot of Syrian diaspora, as well as Yemeni diaspora, and Somali diaspora coming from Somaliland and Somalia. And I think it's important that they get involved as well. And may I also add that in Somaliland, we have thousands of Syrian and Yemeni refugees. because thanks to the peace in Somaliland, they have found a home there. And it's really interesting in the sense that they have contributed now to a revolution in the cuisine, but also the other negative elements is that we are seeing a lot of smuggled artifacts from both countries. So that's, again, another synergy in terms of looking at what diaspora can do wherever they are to either protect heritage or build relations with communities back home to be encouraged, and also international agencies and governments to actually look at diaspora and their connections, which can be really vital to do work in the conflict regions.
Thank you, Sada. Thank you, Amer. Thank you, Jaklin. Thank you, Sada, for sharing your views and expertise and experiences with us today. I mean, we just mentioned it right now, and the word community had been thrown around in different contexts. It's like a community that was hard to convince to attend a seminar, to attend awareness raising events, a community that comes together and learn about digital tools and helps enshrine this heritage that is theirs. A community in the diaspora that can do also their part in raising awareness and contributing to the protection of cultural heritage. And a community, a network that is not quite there yet, but could be there in South Yemen to make things happen in a better way. By discussing initiatives for cultural heritage protection in situations of armed conflict and post-conflict, we hope to inspire further involvement and support from academia to local authorities, from grant makers to policymakers, from other NGOs to civil society at large. This is the objective of this kind of events, that everybody that hears it, that sees it, feels the need and feels the spark to contribute in their own way. Cultural heritage embodies knowledge, not only by telling stories of social structures, beliefs, and craftsmanship, but by teaching us about tolerance, by teaching us about respect for a diverse humanity. Cultural heritage protection is a human right, an issue that concerns us all. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'll pass to Nicolas for final words.
Well, thank you for listening and participating. And we're sorry because we received so many questions and we could not address all of them. So we hope you have enjoyed the discussion, and the discussion, we hope also it managed to transmit the different perspectives from different actors today. As a follow-up, so there will be a short report with a list of recommendations that we will publish on our website and also send to all participants after the event. We have also recorded the session and we will publish the video in a few days. So we're also planning to continue to organize webinars in the same series, first-hand views on human rights and peace. So if you want to stay informed on our future events, please follow us on social media or subscribe to our newsletter. And a special thank to our panelists, to Annabelle, who moderated the event today, and to the ALIPH Foundation. Thank you very much, and see you very soon in another webinar. Bye-bye.